Hi gorgeous, this is episode number 228 with the amazing Danny Iny.
Hi, this is Danny Iny, and you're listening to the Heart Sells podcast with Christine Schlonski. Enjoy!
I am super delighted to have Danny Iny on the show today. He is the founder and CEO of the online business education company Mirasee, whose work on strategy training won special recognition from Fast Company as a world-changing idea. We will be also talking about Teach Your Gift, which is the name of his brand new book. And I already have had a sneak preview. This book is on my desk and I'm so super excited that I already had the chance to have a read and I highly recommend it. Danny has been featured in the Harvard Business Review on Entrepreneur and contributes regularly to publications including Inc., Forbes, and the Business Insider. He's also spoken at institutions like Yale University and organizations like Google, and he is the author of multiple best-selling books, and I'm quite sure that Teach Your Gift will be another one of these. So have fun in this episode and learn why teaching your gift is such an important topic. Well, I am so super excited to have you on the show today, Danny. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I know, and we inspire entrepreneurs all over the world to really understand sales as something that's positive, that can be fun, and that they should make, because otherwise, if they don't sell, they don't have a business, they have a hobby. And your story is quite remarkable. So I just want to go back a little bit in time and tell us when you started from scratch with no audience, no connections, no traffic. What did you do to get these amazing results that you're going to talk about? I'm just saying 4 million annual revenue in just 5 years. So how do you get there?
All right, you want to go straight to the most fun part of the story. So
yes,
the backstory is that I've been an entrepreneur for, I like to say, longer than my adult life. I quit school when I was 15 to start my first business, and in, let's call it 2007. It was my last big attempt at I'm going to build a big startup and raise money and investors and all that kind of stuff. And we were building software that teaches kids how to read, and that's something that I'm still very passionate about. And we raised some money, and we had a prototype and a team, and people, the experts loved it, the kids loved it. So, we got this, early running start. And to make a long story short, I was a very young and very inexperienced CEO in what in hindsight is one of the most complicated industries on the face of the earth. And by the time I figured out how I needed to adjust my plan to make it work, September 2008 rolled around, the markets crashed, and it was just game over. And my investors were mostly friends and family. I wasn't comfortable going to them and saying, look, sorry, your money is gone. So I took a lot of those losses on myself. So I walked away from that with about $250,000 in debt. And, that was a bad financial moment for me. But it's also very tough personally. So anyone who's listening to this who's had a business kind of implode on you, you know that it feels a lot like going through a really bad breakup, right? It's tough. And after you go through a really bad breakup, you're not ready to start dating again right away. You need to lick your wounds for a little bit. So in much the same way, I was thinking, I still have bills to pay, so I need to do something that people will pay me for. But what can I do that doesn't involve hiring a lot of people or raising money? What can I do that would be like a casual on the side kind of business, right? I was looking for my rebound business. And so I thought, well, I've learned a lot about marketing and strategy. I can create a blog and I'll teach about that and I'll write about that. Maybe that'll lead to online courses or something. And one thing just kind of led to another. I was teaching stuff that people really wanted in a voice that seemed to resonate with at least a segment of the market. And here we are, 10 or so years later, and yeah, it's a multi-million-dollar company, and ironically I have a team of a couple dozen people, and sometimes the rebound turns out to be the one.
Yeah, awesome. And that also explains why in all of your amazing books you've written and published, it includes a children's book, because that's where you started, right?
Well, it's because that's where I started, and
yeah.
there's actually a fun story behind that. So, I've written a lot of books for, I was going to say adult books, but they're not adult books. They're books for grown-ups.
Yeah.
But, I'd written all these grown-up books about business and marketing and that sort of stuff. And I was just walking down the street in my neighborhood, a block away from my house. And there's this woman and her son, they were riding their bikes down the street. And I guess she hit something, but she flips over her bike and falls down on the ground. And so, I run over there to help, and a few other neighbors run over there to help, and we called an ambulance, and, she ended up being fine. She broke her arm or something. She needed a cast. But, the boy who did a really good job of keeping his cool. He was 10 years old or something. At some point, he's his mom is getting in the ambulance, and he's thanking all of us for helping. And I told him, of course, the world works better when we help each other. And I don't know where that came from. It just kind of stuck with me, and it occurred to me, it's that's something I'd want to share with my kids. And I just kind of put it aside because I don't write children's books. I write grown-up books, and I have a business to run. But it kept coming back in my mind, and so a few months later, I sat down with my team. I said, let's write this book, and that became the children's book, The World Works Better.
Oh, I love that. What a great story. But you have a brand new book out, Teach Your Gift, which that title is amazing because so many people have amazing gifts, but they don't know how to give it to the world, right? And while I teach them how to sell, so they have a business, you teach them how to approach their gift in a way that they can teach it to others and create an amazing business out of it. So tell us about that book. It's so exciting. It's for coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, experts. So basically our audience, and it talks about creating online courses and business success, and not only just 2020, but beyond. So that's what we need.
Well, thank you for asking. So, I've written, this is probably, depending on how you count, my third or fourth book about the world of online courses. And I've been teaching in this space for 7 or 8 years now. And I've written a bunch of books, and I've worked with a lot of people. And what I notice is that lately I've been having a lot of conversations with a very high caliber of students. So if I go back, 6, 7 years, the world of online courses was very new. And a lot of the people, not all, but a lot of the people who came to me were kind of business opportunity seekers. They were like, how do I make money online? I've heard that online courses are a good way of making money online. And I would always roll my eyes at that. And the people I've had the privilege of working with have been kind of really value-driven experts in their field. But the people who tend to approach me these days, they tend to be very well qualified, successful people in their field. So it's less about, I'm trying to figure out how I'll pay my mortgage and, maybe I can build an online course. It's more about, I have this successful multi-six-figure consultancy, and I'm thinking of reaching more people through an online course. Yeah. And that's great. Those are exactly the people I love to work with. And so I'd ask, tell me what you're thinking already. And then they'd share kind of their plans and their impressions. And it's all based on a playbook that's 5 years out of date. And the reality is that the world of online courses has changed a lot over its lifetime, but especially over the last few years. And so I kind of wrote this book to talk about how do things work now? What is the landscape like now? What is the opportunity like now? It's not the same as it was 5 or 10 years ago. And so that's why I wrote the book, which is, Teach Your Gift. It's now out in the world.
Yeah, it's awesome. And what I love is that, all the updates are included of what you need to know today to make course creation successful, that you don't get hung up in outdated information. Because, reaching your market today is probably more challenging than ever, but it's also more important than ever because people are really seeking to improve. Some have to relearn, have to find different positions, or they have to become an entrepreneur, and some have just outdated material that needs to be updated. So I think it's for everybody, the book. Everybody can really benefit by reading it. And I just want to invite people to get that chance. And it's brand new on the market. I'm going to link it into the show notes as well, so people don't miss it. And so why do you think an online course is so important for a business? You kind of mentioned it, but you are the pro, so really point that out so people get the understanding why moving now is important and not to wait another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at a very special and very interesting moment in time, both in terms of the evolution of the online courses landscape, but also, as we record this, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And that has had a really interesting effect on this industry of just accelerating changes that were already underway. There's been this process. This is how any idea or opportunity kind of enters a market. It starts with innovators and early adopters, and eventually it gets a certain critical mass, and it kind of goes into the mainstream. And that was just starting to happen before the coronavirus pandemic hit. And whereas the natural evolution would have been for it to take years for people to kind of like gradually come on board, basically everyone had to get on board in the course of 2 or 3 weeks. Right? Everyone who was like, I would never teach an online course. I would never take an online course. Like over the course of 3 weeks, they're like, I've got to figure out how to do this. I've got to do this right now. So a lot of these trends have accelerated a lot. And I don't think this is going to roll back when the pandemic ends. Because, you can kind of divide the resistance people have to the idea of an online course into 2 categories. There's the legitimate resistance where, this learning experience just works better in person. That's the case in certain instances. And then there's the resistance that is just a function of inertia, right? It's not what I'm used to. I haven't done this before. It's not comfortable. Not because it wouldn't be good, just they haven't tried it. And everyone who wouldn't do it because they just aren't comfortable or haven't tried it, they've been pushed into the deep end. And so all of that resistance is gone. And most of them are going to wake up and be like, actually, this is pretty good. This works really well. So this is a very special and opportune moment in time. It's a moment where the market has suddenly exploded. The number of people looking to buy has suddenly exploded because you've kind of got 2 categories of courses. You've got the courses that are mandatory, right? Like a business has to take it because, there's compliance or regulatory reasons, or it's mandatory because you need an outcome, right? If I don't train my salespeople on how to sell, then I'm not making sales and I'm out of business. Like that's mandatory. I need that, right? So if you're delivering an outcome that people need, then, the demand for that is just as high or higher. And then there are all the online courses that are, let's call them volitional or discretionary. It's, I do it because I'm interested, I'm curious, I want to learn this. And all of a sudden people have mountains of free time that they've got to do something with. And so, across the board, the demand for online courses is going up. And this is at a time when a lot of businesses are facing a lot of very legitimate pressure. So a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of thinking, how can I innovate? How can I reach people in a way that doesn't involve being in front of them? That's the biggest constraint that a lot of people are facing right now. And even after we get to a point in time where we can be in front of people, it's still nice to have the option of helping them without having to be there.
Yeah. I just love this model. That's why I'm so fascinated with online business, because you can just sit at home. You can connect with amazing people from all around the world. You can study or learn something whenever you feel like it. It's just one click away. And I think that's a very beautiful world. It's going on your schedule. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love online courses. And I also know that there is a challenge to follow through by yourself. So what kind of advice would you give someone who wants to create an online course? What do they need to think of that would help the people they created for to get better results and actually going through the course and finishing it?
It's a really good question, and the completion rates on most conventional online courses are abysmally poor. They're in the single digits. And we need to kind of shift our thinking in terms of what we're creating and what the experience is going to be like. So there's kind of this, there's been this fork of, the world of online courses into 2 different brackets. So there are the information courses, right? And that's the, if we go with the traditional real world archetype of an information product, it's a book. Right? You go to a bookstore, you find the book that purports to have the information that you're looking to learn. You take that book to the register, you pay for it, typically not a lot of money because the incremental cost of printing one more book, of replicating that information is very low. And once you pay for it and you walk out of that bookstore, nobody owes you anything, right? Not the bookstore owner, not the author, not the publisher. You're on your own. And that's exactly what we see with a lot of online courses. A lot of online courses are basically glorified books, right? They're video, they're fancy, they're whatever, but it's just passive information that you can consume. And, the statistics are that, most books that are, I think 90% of books that are purchased are not read past the first chapter, right? So we kind of see something similar with online courses, right? A lot of people buy it. And the reason for that is that, a book or a course is an aspirational purchase. Right? When we buy a book, it's almost like a mental bookmark saying, I want to know this. I want to be the kind of person who does know this. But, having that aspiration, having the time and energy and diligence to actually go through it are two different things. That's why many of us have a lot of books on our Kindle that we haven't read yet. It's easier to buy a book than to read a book. The same is true for an online course. So in that information-only space, that's not an ideal outcome, but it's okay because information-only courses, they're cheap, just like books. Right? So, just like when you buy a book, you don't kick yourself too much for not having read it. You're like, I'll get to it later. The same goes for an information-only course. But then there's another tier of courses where you're delivering more than just information. You're delivering education. You're delivering transformation. And the real-world archetype of that would be a course at a university. Right? So you enroll in that university course. You're going to pay a lot more money than you would for a book in the bookstore.
Yeah, especially in the US.
Especially in the US, but everywhere, right? In some parts of the world, that might be subsidized, like the government is paying for it, but the cost of that experience is high. And you're right, in the US, it's insane, and there's educational inflation and market forces that are a broader thing going on, but anywhere the cost is higher because you've got to pay the salary of the professor, you've got to pay for the teaching assistants, there's infrastructure that costs money to deliver that experience. And you still have to do the work, right? You can enroll for a university course and not show up and not do any work, and you're going to fail, and nobody will care. But if you show up, if you do the work, it is legitimate for you to expect that the professor will help you succeed, that the teaching assistants will help you succeed, that the institution will help you succeed. It is legitimate for you to expect them to be accountable for supporting you in gaining this outcome.
Yeah.
And so in the world of online courses, that's where we see courses that are not just information, they're not just low dollar. You're spending more money, you're investing more to get the outcome, and you expect more to be put on the table. And so, if you charge $1,000, $2,000 for a course that's just a bunch of videos and a membership site, and they're on their own, like that's not a business model that continues to be viable, because you're going to see downward pressure from comparable experts, or frankly more qualified and more celebrity type experts on platforms like Udemy and platforms like Masterclass, where you can get a great course for $50 or $100, and maybe you do something with it, maybe you don't, but the information is good and it's very entertainingly delivered. But you can't take a course on Masterclass or on Udemy or Creative Live and expect a significant transformation, right? That's the big difference. Information is very good for integrating new knowledge into existing expertise. Information is really good for stretching the boundaries on your horizons, right? For helping you see possibilities you didn't see before. Information is not good at making you competent at things that you weren't competent at before. We don't get good at things by reading books, right? We learn things, we don't get good at things.
Yeah.
And so for me to acquire that ability, more has to be baked into the picture, right? And that's where getting people through the course is a big part of it, because, for me to explain something interesting to you, as long as I do a good job delivery, it's like watching a movie. Some people watch it, some people don't, but, it's not that hard to sit through a movie, even if it's not the most interesting movie. But when it comes to acquiring real competence, that is usually going to be challenging. Right? That's why when you set out to create a course, you want to ask yourself, not just what do I want them to know, you want to ask how well do I want them to know it, right? Because I could teach I couldn't, but someone could teach a course that's like 30 minutes long on the story of Hamlet. And you watch the course and you come out and you're like, I know the gist of the story of Hamlet. But you can't watch a course like that and then be able to perform Hamlet well, right? That takes a lot more work and practice and feedback. And so if you're trying to help them accomplish something challenging, you need to bake in the support and guidance and everything else along the way that will help them actually do that.
Yeah. Wow. And that's probably what people really need to think about when they go to that endeavor. And it's also, how do they choose a person that they can learn from how to build courses? And obviously you want to go to someone who has an amazing success record and who really shows people how to do that. And it's not just your book. I mean, your whole company is about helping people to create courses. And with everything they can get by learning from you, they will be set up for an absolute high level online course, which will serve their audience in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. So I just love how that goes kind of hand in hand, how you write about course creation, how you teach course creation, how your whole company is set up for course creation. And when we see that level of expertise, we also know that you only get there by having invested so many hours, like at least 10,000 to go to mastery. And I just love that. I'm super excited for your new book that's out now, so people can get their hands on that. So let me ask you, what means hard sells for you?
I love that question. And from my perspective, and I know that you ask this of everyone who comes on the show, and I imagine you get a different answer. But from my perspective, hard sells is about coming from a place of giving rather than taking. And that's about essentially, what do you place first? Do you come into the selling conversation or the interaction starting from a place of, I need to make this sale, I need to generate revenue, I need to get this outcome? Or do you start from a place of service of, they need this outcome, they need to get this benefit, they need to solve this problem, and go into that conversation as an advocate and guide working on their behalf?
Yeah, wonderful explanation. And I feel it's the same, it's true for you, like how you teach people to create courses is exactly with that mindset, how they can serve in a much better way. And I believe that money follows success. So the more successful you can make your tribe, the more money you will earn at the end of the day. So
thank you.
Amazing. Well, where can we send people to learn more? Should we just send them to Amazon, or obviously get your book?
Well, yeah. So you can certainly go to Amazon, and as the saying goes, the very best way to buy the book is in bulk, many copies. So you could do that.
Good point.
But we're doing a whole bunch of fun stuff around the book launch, and so there'll be special promotions and free content. So the best place to go to know what is current and what is the best opportunity available is teachyourgiftbook.com.
Awesome. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well. Teachyourbook.com. No, you say it again.
Teachyourgiftbook.com.
Okay,
it sounds like maybe I should have chosen a simpler URL.
Yeah, well, sorry. I should have asked you before.
It's all good. It's all good.
Then I would have had it in the notes.
But now we've said it like 4 or 5 times, so it's perfect for everyone to remember. Teachyourgiftbook.com.
Thank you so much. Well, time just flies. I'm so happy we have another opportunity to go deeper. Thank you so much for your time today. And can't wait to have you back on Hard Sales Podcast.
I can't wait to be back. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, I just loved hearing the insights from Danny, how things are working now, because as he said, the landscape of online courses, of online teaching has changed over the last couple of years. So it's really important to know what we can do now to support other people, what we can do now to get our gifts out into the world so other people can learn from us, consume our content in a way that's easy and fun and that's well packaged, but not overwhelming. Hop on over to christineschlonski.com, find the show notes, the transcripts, and all the links to Danny, the link to his amazing book, Teach Your Gift. And once you're over there, don't forget to sign up for the empowerment notes so you get empowerment right into your inbox. And last but not least, the 4th edition of the Sales Mentality Makeover Masterclass has just opened up for registration. We are going live with the interviews on May 18th. That means each and every day there will be 4 classes with amazing teachers that will be online, and you can watch them, consume the content, take notes, take action on all different kinds of amazing speakers teaching spiritual and practical steps to increase your sales and create true wealth without losing authenticity. So hop on over to christineschlonski.com And you will find that in the tab, the podcast tab and the masterclass tab. And I hope you are having a ton of fun with the podcast and the class, and that it really gives you like the boost you need in your business right now to really make that difference and to show up for your tribe as the leader. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this beautiful world. And I'm saying bye for now.